This video is sponsored by Opera GX, the free internet browser tailored specifically to gamers. If you're like me and you play games while using a browser like Google Chrome, you'd be surprised at how many resources Chrome steals from your PC. Opera GX solves this first and foremost and lets you limit the processing power or RAM or bandwidth you'd like your browser to use. It also has its fabulous sidebar, which lets you do so many things like log into Spotify or YouTube Music via its GX player and play anything you'd like to from those services. There's also the integrated Twitch app, which lets you watch your favorite streamers without opening a new tab, and integrated chatting apps like Discord or even Twitter and Instagram. The entire browser is completely customizable as well, with some pretty sweet neon lights, custom wallpapers, and even optional sound effects and background music. Opera GX even has the quick import tool, so you can import all your bookmarks, all your browsing history, and yes, all the cookies. Oh, and the cherry on top is that it has a built-in VPN and ad blocker. Like I said, it's completely free, so honestly, I recommend doing yourself a favor, following the link in the description below, and switching your browser to Opera GX, like I did. And now, on to the video. Hey everyone, Bandit here. Don't you just love Ghirahim? He's got that swoopy hair, those weird clothes, and that tongue flailing thing. He's just so lovable, you know? With the recent release of Skyward Sword HD, it's got me thinking about a lot of the characters in that game, namely the one-off villain known as Ghirahim. Well, actually, his status as a one-off villain is what this entire video is about. Or in other words, what if Ghirahim has actually been spotted in other Zelda games, and we just didn't know it? Even Breath of the Wild. By the way, there are definitely going to be spoilers for Skyward Sword's ending in this video, so consider yourself warned of said spoilers. Also, I have another very special message for some very special people at the end of this video, so you'll want to stick around for that. But back to Ghirahim. Let's recap his role in Skyward Sword real quick. Ghirahim is first introduced to us as the seemingly all-powerful demon lord who, for whatever reason, is chasing Zelda around, trying to nab her for evil purposes, which he eventually does do, but only after Link and company manage to defeat the demon lord's demon lord, Demise, also known as the Imprisoned, also known as the Avocado of Death. Ghirahim takes Zelda through the portal of time into the past in order to zap her goddess powers out of her body and into his masters. Once again, he is successful in this venture, even though Link very pleasantly beats him half to death. When Demise busts out of his death avocado form and emerges as his original humanoid form, he decides that Ghirahim's time in humanoid form is all used up, and Ghirahim then turns into his master's sword, a master sword, if you will. Demise, who is now joined by his trusty dark master sword, is immediately challenged by a rather TO'd Link, and the two of them go off into another realm to determine the fate of the world by trying to resolve their differences and peacefully talk things out. Nah, I'm just kidding, they fight to the death. Link is victorious because he's amazing, and then a very weakened Demise thrusts his master sword, which he apparently is now too weak to wield or something, into the ground. And shortly after this, something very peculiar happens. The dark master sword, otherwise known as the demon lord Ghirahim, dissolves into thin air. ... And that's it. That's the end of Ghirahim's story as we know it. For the past 10 years since the game originally released, what happened to him has been debated and theorized about, since as we all know, nobody ever really dies forever in fantasy games or movie franchises, at least not very commonly. With Ghirahim's death being speculated over for quite some time now, I'm going to go over some of the possible answers that people have come up with so far, and then a new one that I'd like to bring to the table. First and foremost, it is completely possible and even somewhat obvious that the Dark Master Sword's dissolution into thin air is simply due to Demise's impending death. Since the Goddess Sword, and by extension the Sword Spirit Phi, were created by the Goddess Hylia, and since Demise is credited with being the creator of all demons across the entire franchise, it can be assumed that the Dark Master Sword, and by extension the Demon Lord Ghirahim, were created by Demise as well. Logically speaking, if Demise meets his own demise, his power would cease to exist, right? I mean, Impa even states that Demise is decaying to nothingness within the Master Sword. That would easily explain the fact that Ghirahim just dissolved away into thin air and out of existence, except for one teeny tiny huge little detail. See, it makes sense that Demise's power would go away once he dies, but if it did truly disappear, then what's this? or this, or all of these? Due to the existence of Demise's power later in the franchise and the curse that Demise places on the goddess Hylia and even Link himself before he got Thanos snapped into the Master Sword, clearly we know that Demise's power didn't disappear, at least not entirely. In addition to that, the Dark Master Sword appears to dissolve quite some time before the Master Sword begins to glow, which it did to signify that it was ready to vacuum up all of Demise's essence. Also, the Dark Master Sword dissolves in the opposite direction of Link, further implying that Ghirahim did not enter the Master Sword along with Demise. And since Ghirahim definitely did dematerialize right here at the end of Skyward Sword, is it instead possible that he didn't actually cease to exist, but maybe just ran away and returned to the surface? What if he rematerialized somewhere else in the series? Enter possibility 2, which is to state that Ghirahim has indeed returned, potentially multiple times over multiple different games as the different weapons that Ganon uses. This is what most theories about what happened to Ghirahim usually end up with concluding. The typical answer normally ends up being that he has most recently manifested as Ganon's trident, when you look at the series from the perspective of its timeline. This is mostly speculation, of course, but if Ghirahim had truly survived the defeat of his master, it makes sense that he would want to serve his master's reincarnation as a weapon, which is what he was always meant to be, according to his own words. Furthermore, and I realize that the Hyrule Warriors games aren't canon, but in the first game, both Ganondorf's Swords of Demise and the Trident of Demise weapons are named after, you guessed it, Demise. Having weapons associated with Demise automatically implies a Ghirahim connection. And if this is true, then we even have a potential return of Ghirahim in Breath of the Wild 2, since we've seen in the sequel's first trailer that Ganondorf used to wield a trident. Honestly, I have nothing against this possibility for Ghirahim's fate. It's just as plausible as any other speculation out there, in my opinion. And if you've been here on my channel for very long, you probably know by now that I love to speculate, which is exactly what brings me to the final possibility. Possibility number 3. What if Ghirahim is the curse? You know, the curse. The one that Demise spoke into existence right before he died. Think about it. Something weird happened when Demise uttered his final words, and that is that nothing happened, actually. Nothing flashy or spectacular. Whenever he's used his powers before, it's always been big, grandeur, purple blasts or red glowing essences or something. But here, when he apparently uttered the most impactful words in the entire franchise, he just kind of said the curse words and then laughed and then died. But what if nothing happened because his words were just words, but he still laughed about it because he knew that he had already set the curse in motion? Just a few moments before, when he stood back up following that final stab from Link and the Master Sword, when he knew he was bested, Demise very deliberately raised his Master Sword into the air and then stabbed it into the ground beside him. Now, earlier in the video, I said that this was because he was too weak to hold the sword any longer. But if you think about it, when people are too weak to hold things, they drop them, not raise them into the air and stab them into the ground, which would actually require some strength to do. What if this was Demise issuing a final command to his second in command, to Ghirahim, who is already pretty used to carrying out his master's will for an unknown amount of time, all the while awaiting his master's return? What if he told him to return to the surface and build up power to summon his reincarnation, or something like that? Demise's power normally takes on a dark purple coloration whenever he's using it, and that's exactly what Ghirahim dissolved into after Demise stabbed him into the ground. Also, in the original Japanese version of the game, as some fans already know, Demise calls this curse the curse of the demon tribe, not just the curse of Demise, which implies that there are more demons involved than just himself. This could be a reference to the incarnations of Demise to come, or it could be referencing Ghirahim, who at this point should already be carrying out his master's eternal will. And what if in Demise's final moments he gave the rest of his power to Ghirahim, like the power to create other demons or other incarnations of himself? This transfer of power is something that we know he should be able to do, since one of his incarnations, Ganon, is able to give a portion of his own power to Zant in Twilight Princess. If Demise gave Ghirahim his power and sent him away, this would finally explain the curse of the demon tribe, which has most recently and most famously been materialized as Malice in Breath of the Wild. That's right, this theory is implying that Ghirahim, the right-hand man, demon lord, and ultimate tool of Demise, is responsible for carrying out Demise's will of hatred over the entire franchise, and dozens of millennia later has materialized as Malice, the sentient, evil embodiment of Demise's malicious hatred. But of course, this is all just what I think. What do you guys think? Is Ghirahim the key to solving the curse of the demon tribe when he was sent away in a purple mist of power at the end of the game? Or is this just another case of the crazies? Let me know in the comments below. Also, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like below, as that greatly assists in getting it spread around on YouTube to other people who might also enjoy it. And subscribe if you haven't already for much more awesome Nintendo stuff to come. It takes less than 2 seconds to do, and you can always unsubscribe if you feel led to in the future. And as I mentioned earlier, I have a message for some very special people, and that would be the people who have subscribed to my co-channel Bandit Plays. Seriously, I was hoping to maybe get like 1,000 subscribers over there in a week if I was lucky. But within a few days, you guys more than doubled that number. Thank you guys so much from the bottom of my heart. I'm so excited to start making content over there. It's been a little bit slow to start because, as I'm sure you can tell, I've moved recently, which means things have been pretty hectic the past couple weeks, like my AC breaking in my new apartment in the Texas summer. But if you're interested in seeing me play some games real soon, head on over to Bandit Plays and click that subscribe button. I'll link to the channel in the description below. Also, of course, huge thanks goes out to all of my Bandit crew, of which I have a new member to announce. Please say hello to Link Iora, who recently joined up right here on YouTube, and I'm sorry about the pronunciation there. If you're interested in helping these videos get made right here on the channel, please feel free to check out that join button located below any video, or the links to my Patreon or merch pages in the description below. Also down there are my social media pages, so come follow me on Instagram and Twitter and all that good stuff for some more good stuff. That's all I've got in this one, so as always, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. This is maskednintendobandit, looking forward to seeing you in the next one, and signing out. Peace!